We're going to be having a conversation very loosely based around the idea of the future of open mics and that side of it. And part of that is because you've been doing Spoken Word London for a while now.
Yeah.
So when you started it, a stupid question, but did you ever see it getting, like, one, lasting this long, or two, getting as big and popular as it is?
No. It's the honest question. Honest answer, sorry. I guess when I started it, I just hoped that like some kind of community would build up around the night and that people would come, I guess. Like for the first 6 months at least, I was just really worried that like anybody would come, like for when it was on. But as it did build, and it's odd because like I've now heard obviously been in an interview with Hannah today and heard Hannah's interview, and where it was very much described as like a queer space, and I don't really think I spoke about London that much as a queer space because I'm very involved in queer spaces outside, and I run my own open mics, or one particular open mic which is to discuss chemsex in the city for gay men, and that has a particular audience that's very gay that comes. Spoke about London I've always seen as like open to everybody, but I do realise that it does have maybe more of an LGBTQ audience than the rest.
More queer friendly rather than straight up queer night.
Than other spoken word nights. But as Hannah was saying earlier, like one of the beautiful things about it, and something that I'd really like to see go forward for open mics and spoken word in general, is that you can get someone like Sid doing his poem Terrorist, which is essentially about his British Muslim identity in the UK and taking on systems of oppression of how he's treated, and you can get somebody come in and talking about their being membership of a gang in London, and you can get someone talking about a woman talking about being abused by her husband, and then you can get LGBTQ people and queer people giving their experience of day-to-day life as well, and you've got all these stories and lived experiences being shared, and people are educating each other. People are like giving that lived experiences to other people, emotionally connecting with them, and you remind them of like underneath those divisions, underneath what is these ideas, I guess, of and constructs of gender and sexuality and race and like and ableism and other elements of division. There is that shared humanity, I guess, if that doesn't sound too wanky. Okay.
That makes sense, and like I think like it goes on like in some ways a lot of the future of open mics, if we're going to go for that, and I'm just going to leave that as a simple title now, like is the future of open mics is more about the open micers and the poems they're bringing to it, and hopefully in creating the communities we have with the open mic sections, that open mic spaces, that a lot more people will feel open to share more stories and hearing more stories, and like that side of it changing more than anything else would be the future for you, at least.
Yeah, I think like with what we'd like to do with Spoken Word London in particular, I guess, is we have an idea for possibly, because every year we run a night on its anniversary called Spoken Word London Anti-Hate, and that's we get features in as well. That's the one of the only nights of the year, unless we do other specials, and we do special events like Spoken Word London Queer, where we get features in, but also have the open mic. We always have the open mic for Spoken Word London because we always want to retain it. And at Anti-Hate, we get people speaking out about oppression and speaking out about against modes of like discrimination and prejudice. And what we would like to do is be able to take that, I guess, on tour around the country, and also to use like technology, to use like the ubiquitousness, I guess, of social media in our lives and technology in our lives, and everyone being on their phones all the time, but to be able to, I guess, use Facebook Live or YouTube streaming to get that out to as wide an audience as possible, because I think there are pros and cons to it. Like the con is that you lose the intimacy, and you lose that some people feel emboldened to be able to share their inexperiences because of that intimacy. But then the pro is that you can spread this message of like bringing people together rather than dividing on a far greater level and reach far more people.
Like on that, like say what you will about poetry slams in general and all that kind of stuff. The Roundhouse Slam for the past 3 or 4 years now, what I've really loved that they've been doing is they live stream the final,
Mm-hmm.
so that even people from all across the country or whatever can watch it on YouTube and just watch the slam, and then they'll leave it up there on YouTube. And like obviously, there's again going into what you were saying, the cons, you don't have that intimacy and all that side of it. But making it accessible to everyone, like so even if people don't get the ticket to get in there or have other things going on in the night, like that's actually a really useful thing to have. So like that's a nice idea of the future of like spoken word in general, and especially open mics. Like that's in some ways, not to try to make this too much about me or anything like that, but like that's part of what I'm trying to do with this.
Yeah.
Whole,
Yeah.
like having some way, like this is what I want to do. Like for the most part, open mics have defined themselves as what they are, and like you'll want poets, etc., to then expand that in terms of what they're writing, and so the facilitating of open mics for the most part seems to be fairly set up. It's what more can you do, and part of that is expanding the audience and making sure there's spaces for the audience outside of just the night. And I think that's one of the things that Spoken Word London does very well. Like it's like as much as it is the night, people coming there on the night, you've got the Facebook page where you're sharing other people's events, etc., and all that side of it. So like the future of so I think the future of like using that more to get more people involved in it or give more people an option afterwards.
Yeah, definitely.
So with that, then like what kind of plans do you have for the future of Spoken Word London specifically? Then is it just Facebook live streams, or like would it be more special events, or what exactly?
I think there will be more special events. Like if we do, we've got Hannah and I have like our little Spoken Word London steering committee, and we're discussing what we want to do for the next year and maybe years ahead of that. And we do have a plan next year. Will be the fifth year anniversary, and so our own Spoken Word London Anti-Hate, we'd like to have a little retrospective of the night, and also one of the things that we haven't spoken about Spoken Word London that actually incorporates technology and social media into it is from the beginning we've always had a photographer, tried to have a photographer, and that has meant that like when people perform, they get pictures of themselves and they make it their Facebook profile pictures, or they put it on Instagram, or they put it on Twitter, and therefore like actually that spreads word of the night through the visual image, ironically enough, around to other people, and other people come because they want to have that picture of them performing, and they want to have that documentation of what they do with their spare time, I guess, and how they express themselves.
Like what I found hilarious, like on that, what I found really hilarious, like I will go on Facebook because I take pictures at Boomerang or other nights as well. It's like I'll go on Facebook and in people you may know, it's like, that's my picture. Like, I don't have you as a Facebook friend, but you've got a picture I've taken of you as your profile picture. That's just awesome, but also weird a little bit as well.
Exactly. And but I think people really respond to that, and also we have like on the Facebook page we have like this great visual history of the night, like, and everyone who's spoken, and in Hannah and I, if we want to go back and find someone as a feature for one of the specials, we'll generally go back to a photo gallery on Facebook and have a look through until we find them, and they've probably tagged themselves, and then we can get in touch with them. And so like in the retrospective, we'd like to have like a gallery exhibition like of the photos throughout the year, the different photographers, and have their different and different regulars who have been there, and then incorporate a spoken word night into that, and like have it around in space, and also I guess like in the far future, what we'd like to do is take it on, if we could get funding, and we've done Spoken Word London with no funding for the past like 4 years basically. We've had a little bit of funding when we've been involved with like festivals like And What Queer Arts Festival, shout out. But like for the future, if we can take it on tour and take it into different towns, around different cities around the UK, I guess, and do the Spoken Word London Anti-Hate, but also have a different theme, like for each of the Anti-Hate, like looking at different minorities who are persecuted or experience discrimination in the country right now, and I guess like and get different bands of poets from those minorities to speak out on that experience, record it, and then be able to get that out through the Facebook page, through a dedicated website which we've finally set up, and then try and, I guess like the ultimate aim of Spoken Word London since its beginning has been to try and connect people, and so try and connect people on a greater level, and I do worry like post Brexit when we hear about hate crime rising, and hate crime has gone up like 13% or something in the UK over the past year, that we are going like into, and police forces are being cut, and so we're going into a more divisive area of society possibly, and so I guess we want to do what we can in terms of having like this little spoken word night. There could be something that's quite big in bringing people in combating that and bringing people together.
There's like really nice ideas, and I hope all of them come to fruition. And like now, to almost not to bring it down, but like to bring it to easier to grasp concepts and stuff like that. Like that's the big idea for Spoken Word London as a whole. But like in terms of the almost day to day and something like that, what changes or things would you be looking to do? Like what things have you done in the past? Like as hosting Boomerang, we have gone through a couple of different changes for how we do the open mic process. Like it was first people on the Facebook page that didn't like it worked to some extent, but there were definitely some issues with that.
Yeah.
We did names out of a hat that didn't always work. We did first come first serve that didn't always work. So we've been trying to float around a couple of those. Like what kind of things have you toyed around with changing as Spoken Word London, and like in the same way as well you toyed around with doing it weekly and then how that works. So like what on the like day to day kind of things, what things possibly are you looking to change, or have you changed that didn't work?
So the sign up process is definitely something that we not struggle with, but like because we get a queue outside like from 7 and we open at 7:30, and then so everybody signs up. There's 20 slots. There's 4 rounds of 5 slots and 5-minute slots each. And so everybody signs up, and you've got all 20 slots filled, and then there are people, and this is by like 7:40, and you've only been open for 10 minutes, and so like the people still arriving. And so how do you deal with the excess of people wanting to speak, I think is something that we've had to sort out answers to. And so what we've created is a reserve list, and Hannah and I actually do it slightly differently. Like I have a reserve list where everyone gets half the time, so they get 2.5 minutes instead of 5 minutes, and they get called out randomly. So they'll be like they might be the end of round 1 or they might be the end of round 4, and people will complain and say like I've got to go get my train, I've got to go, like I need to be in round 1, and it's like well, why have you come all the way over like from this place outside London if you're only planning on staying and doing your poem for 20 minutes. And Hannah, I believe, actually does it in a way where everyone still gets 5 minutes, which is nice and goes with like the egalitarian ethos of the night, but does cut it off, and so there aren't it signs everyone up, but there's only like a certain amount who will get
actually can perform.
And it is hard when you get to the point where like the night is so full that you have to tell people no, and they are begging, and they really really want to perform, but you do have to at some point cut it off, otherwise you'd be going on to like 2 o'clock in the morning basically.
It's like that's both a brilliant but annoying problem to have kind of thing. Like I feel like with that, like part of it, if anything, to my contribution to the whole future of open mics is part of it that it's on the open mic as a lot of it, and like I think Spoken Word London actually does it a lot better than a lot of other nights, but the fact that open micers that can go to a night and just enjoy watching it, like I think that's part of it. Like there's a lot of open micers that like only enjoy it if they get a chance to perform. And like with me, like I know for me it's like it's always a bonus if they get to perform. That's always great, but it's like I was going to go here anyway. Like the whole point of me choosing to go to a night is I want to watch a night. If I get to perform, great. But so I think that is part of it. Like because like, we've changed it. So at the moment, our system for Boomerang to try and make it as fair and transparent is an amalgamation of a couple of things. So we have it so people post on the Facebook to say they want to put their name in the hat. And we'll do names out of a hat, but we'll do that as a Facebook live draw a week before the event, so that it's still random and everyone's got a chance, but also that means that people know before the event, because like the pros and cons of like, names out of a hat is the fact that like you have no idea if it's your name coming up, and so you'll sit for the whole night. It's like I have no idea. So it's nice to give some people a little bit of a heads up. You are definitely performing now, but also leaves it fair enough that you like, because like with doing names on the Facebook page, it was a case of we'd put the Facebook page up at like 1 o'clock on a Tuesday at lunchtime, and by 1:10 all the 10 slots had gone. It's like, well, that was pointless. And like
exactly.
Also like on this very producers front as well, and like, well, it's now hard to advertise the night because all the open mic slots have gone, but it's still got 2 weeks till the event. So how do we kind of advertise that? So that's part of why that's changed. But like, I feel like we've got a nice response to us doing it this way, but like in the same token as well, like I feel like Spoken Word London's, it's such a fair way of like you have it open at 7:30. First when you get to pick their spots as well. Like also the whole picking their spots is a great thing. Like admittedly we are bad at doing that. We do not tell people when they're up, which we probably should do. But like the fact that like you get there, and you can see okay, there's these sections, you can pick where you are. That's a good thing. So. Yeah.
I think something that like I think that's a great way of doing it, like having the half and half, and like and also what you said, like if people sign up, like there's also a general, there might be like a fallout, and so like and then you won't have like enough people like actually performing at the night, like if you give them all away beforehand. I think also what I don't know if you have to deal with this as well, is people coming along and signing up on a night and then being like, oh, can I sign up my friend? She's on the bus and she's like 15 minutes away. And so I think we're generally quite like firm and say like you can only sign up if you're here. You can't sign up your friends as well and take away the slots.
That's what we've been starting to do. So like we've got it. So the majority of open micers are names out of a hat beforehand, but we still leave some slots on the door. But even those slots, so again, are names out of a hat as well. Because like when we were doing names like first come first serve on the door, you'd get people that get there for 6:30. It's like we don't even open till 7. What the hell? Not everyone is able to get there that early. So like there's only so much you can like. But at the same time, there's only so much you can do. There's no perfect way of doing it, and like I feel like the way you've got the moment works for you is like in the future. Like, would you be willing to tinker with it, or are you like very happy with what it is? There's more the audience's perception might have to be something you work on. But I have no idea how.
I think it seems okay as it's going at the moment. I mean, like if it continues to grow and we get more and more people coming, then I guess we'll have to find like a different way of sorting it out. But yeah, it seems to have worked all right for the past 4 years. So yeah, it's just dealing with that reserve list. But it will be interesting, I guess, to see in the future how like technology can be incorporated. Because I know I've slated social media earlier and said like, oh, everyone's putting on this false version of their life. But I don't think everyone's putting. I think there's a temptation to put out like a kind of like perfect version of your life, and like and also because like other people are doing it, then that creates peer pressure that you have to seem like you're doing very successfully, and you know, and you've got this perfect house and job and relationship or whatever. But I think like actually social media is what we make of it. You know, like there's a phrase I've used before in journalism and poetry too. Like it's not the app, it's the appetite. And so if we can change like how people use social media in some ways, like you know, if we prove there is an appetite for honesty of poetry being used, then I think like that can be quite cathartic for the future of how poetry is spread. I guess.
Well, then to end it on a vague note, because vague notes are great to end things on. For open mics in general, let's say open mic rather than a spoken word. For open mics in general, what would you think the future is like, whether it be the immediate future or long-term future? What in general, to wrap up, would you say are the things you expect to change or would want to change?
For open mics in general, I guess it's just being as welcoming as possible. Having I guess like it'd be nice. I think maybe Apples and Snakes is one of the or the South Bank might be like one of the people with the organisations with the most like spoken word funding at the moment, and so I guess maybe there's scope for creating a kind of like not a set of rules, but a set of guidelines of how to run an open mic and what to do in those awkward situations when you are trying to create a welcoming safe space and someone gets up and does something that is provocative, you know, that is that does put turbulence into that safe space of like, you know, maybe they'll get up and say something that's misogynistic towards women, and there's someone in the audience who feels like quite hurt by that and offended. And frightened, and so like having those kind of like having a centralised guidelines that is available for people to refer to, maybe that's something that Hannah and I should think about, and we should get everyone who runs open mics in London to try and get together and create those, and so something that that is all about protecting people, welcoming people, and creating the best possible space for sharing poetry and sharing intimacy.
That's enough of an uplifting, positive note to end on, I feel. Thank you. Cool.
Great. Thank you.